All right, overspeed eccentrics. Overspeed eccentrics is exactly what the name implies. You try to go as fast as possible during the eccentric. Not only are you not controlling the bar down or trying to go slow on purpose, you're trying to pull the bar down during the eccentric. So on a bench press, you're pulling the bar toward you. On a squat, you're actually trying to pull yourself into the ground. The goal is that the eccentric phase of the movement be done as fast as humanly possible. Then once you reach the stop point, so that would be the point where you're changing direction, which can be the full range of motion or maybe half range of motion, depending on what you're training, you want to abruptly stop the movement and then switch into a concentric. That can be done either with a pause when you catch, quote unquote, the weight and press. In that case, you would really focus on mostly force absorption. Or you can rapidly switch direction, in which case you would have more of a plyometric effect, utilizing the stretch reflex to maximize force production, which is very useful in most sports, okay? So you can use it again for full range, half range, and there are some ways to work up to that full speed, overspeed eccentrics. Because if you go from the top to the bottom, like very fast from the bottom, from the start, well, you might not have the capacity to absorb all that force. Let's say that you are using 60, 70% of your max on the barbell, and you try to accelerate the weight down and abruptly stop it 1 inch from the chest. The amount of force you have to absorb is very high because of the path being long. There's a long way the bar can accelerate downward, and that increases the force with which you have to produce to stop it. Force equals mass times acceleration. So one way to work up to those overspeed eccentrics is to do a slow eccentric for most of the rep, and then the last third part of the range of motion, you accelerate it. And as you get more comfortable with that, you will increase the length of the overspeed range of motion. Let me demonstrate. So at first I'm going to be doing a controlled eccentric for, let's say, 3/4 of the range of motion. Then I will go fast and abruptly stop the weight. Again, that's probably close to my 1 RM, so be careful. Okay, so control, speed, control, speed, control, speed. That would be the easier version because the acceleration path during the eccentric is pretty short, meaning that the overall amount of force the barbell will force you to produce to stop it is not that high. Now, if I'm getting better at that, okay, I'm really good at abruptly stopping and changing direction, I can challenge myself by increasing the path of acceleration. Let's say I'm going to start fairly slowly, then do half of the eccentric as fast as possible. And once you're comfortable at that level of effort, you can obviously move toward the full overspeed rep, meaning that right from the start, you're trying to create as much downward acceleration as possible, then abruptly stop the weight. So that method is plyometrics with weight. You don't need to use a very large amount of weight because, again, force equals mass times acceleration. So if you move really fast, let's say you have 50% of your max on the bar, you're probably going to require something close to your 1 RM as far as force production is concerned. For example, someone who's very efficient at that can do reps with around 70% of their 1 RM. That would be an athlete who's very good at abruptly stopping a load, absorbing force, and changing direction. Most people should probably start around 30-40% and just work their way up. It's like plyometrics, it's like jumps. The goal is not to lift as heavy as possible. It's really the type of contraction. Yes, you can go heavier, but if it delays the change of direction, or if the absorption phase is too long, you can't stop sharply, then the load is excessive and does not give you the training effect you want. Now, this is a method, obviously, that is very advanced. It's not something I would use with beginners or even intermediate lifters or athletes, and it would be better suited for the last portion, last training phase of an off-season program, because we normally go from volume to build structures, intensity to build force production, and then speed to build either force absorption or explosive force production. So if we're training eccentric, we would do slow eccentric at first to build structures with higher volume. Then during the force production or intensification phase, we would go with eccentrics overload. And then in the realization phase or the explosive phase, we would go to overspeed eccentric, from slow to heavy to fast. And it would be the same thing with concentric. You go with more high volume, build structures, then heavier weights, then explosive lifting. That's the way I structure programs for athletes.